Well, the boss called me up and said, come in to work. I just hung up on that slave-driving jerk. I'm going to wrestling. Going to wrestling. Well, you'd think I'd rather be sweating on a dock or watching somebody use a hammerlock. I'm going to wrestling. Going to wrestling. R-A-S-S-L-I-N, that's wrestling. R-A-S-S-L-I-N, that's wrestling. Well, I love to watch the missing link bang his head on a corner post and the romper bumper butt delivered by the Iceman. The Freebirds, Roberts, Hayes, and Gardy, but what I like the most is Kerry delivering the Iron Claw as only the Von Erichs can.
Thank you, fuck you, bye, boom.
But it's not that, because don't adjust your Giles. We are here at the new home for Lonely Marks Wrestling Podcast until we change it for another time next week here on the Pierce Wrestling channel here, because we are in transition here from our old home that we won't talk about due to a non-disclosure agreement until we get to our new home next week, which me, Richie, Jacob, and our usual fourth row host, Austin Pez Howell, will be blasting that channel here pretty soon. So we're pretty much a standalone channel here. So we're having fun this week here on the Pierce Wrestling channel. We're going to discuss some of the greatest wrestlers of the 90s, but I am, of course, not alone. Jacob Barber, how you doing?
I'm doing well. The best part about that intro video was Limp Bizkit also playing in the background. And
heck yeah.
Because that's not only is that just a great song, but that's like one of the best like WrestleMania theme songs as well. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. I'm excited to talk some 90s because while I was a child, I still remember it fondly.
Yes, my earliest memories of pro wrestling is the 90s. And speaking of Limp Bizkit, we're going to keep on rolling to Richie, Max Moon Goodacre. How you doing?
Is that a pun also because of the wheelchair? I get you. I think you did.
No, that was a Limp Bizkit joke. I swear to God,
I don't mind if it is. I'm just saying. Look, can we all agree now? Yes to Haikushi. Thanks.
And speaking of Limp Bizkit, he did it all for the Nookies, Steve Mesa.
What up, guys? I am here to talk about all types of 90s wrestling, and I have a particular niche in time. We'll go to that later, but I'm excited. I'm ready to talk about 90s wrestling, and let's do this.
And he's here to chew bubble gum and drink hot dog flavored water. It's Jacob Cameron.
And to break stuff too, but it's great to be on for the 90s edition of this. I was on for the 80s edition of it, and I had a great time. So I'm happy to be invited back.
Yes, indeed. So I believe Barber, Richie, we're just gonna kind of stroll into it. We got anything beforehand? What do we got, boys?
There's not really any news per se. It's all speculation about contracts and whatnot.
I feel like we had a discussion already. So we are going to talk about it.
Yeah, so no.
Right.
There's nothing news, really. It's just
all right. The no will suffice. So yes, we still... Hey, what's Malcolm's channel? Real quick?
Take 3.
I always forget, damn it. We sold this with permission from Malcolm Lay, Take 3. This is Rankum, so there's 5 of us. One by one, we're going to throw out a name. And the criteria, obviously, is they were the best, one of the top 12 wrestlers of the 90s here. And then you can kind of make your own case as to why you think they should be in the 12. And then everyone else is going to vote, yes or no, simple as that. Obviously, keep in mind, one, we are talking just male wrestlers. We will be doing some female stuff down the line here, so definitely want to make sure they get their own love and respect. Steve wants dibs on that, I know. So there's males, and also two.
You can't call dibs on women anymore.
This is hey now. This is the 90s too. So, for instance, yes, you could say Andre the Giant, or like I don't know, who had like a couple matches in the 90s, maybe Big John Studd.
3 months of
it wouldn't really make sense. Or on the other end of the spectrum, you could even say someone like, you could try for Kurt Angle, though he just debuted in November, or even like a CM Punk who had some indie matches. But hopefully they'll obviously get no's, because it's really talking about who was the best, who had the most impact matches, mic work. It's kind of up to your interpretation, really, of the 1990s. I will go ahead and give it to the panel here. Jacob Barber, your first nomination.
Yeah, so I did ask Pez in our group chat who he would have nominated first, and so just out of respect, because he wanted to be here, but he couldn't due to unfortunate circumstances. So I will do him a solid, and I will bring up Yokozuna. He said he would make a case for Yokozuna, and I can see it. Yokozuna was definitely a presence. Um, he had definitely had some memorable moments. Was he the best in-ring worker? No, but I think he has some pretty memorable moments. And so yeah, I'll give a shout out to Yokozuna. Whether he makes it or not, it's up to you guys. But I think he deserves to be mentioned at least. There's an argument to be made.
Jacob with a bonsai drop here in round one. Richie, what you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, I know people can make the argument that he's the greatest wrestler, but I think people are undercutting that a bit. Like, he was a pretty dang good wrestler for his size. I think that, him getting bigger and bigger sort of is what was, like his downfall. But like in his for prime in that mid '90s sort of era, like he could move well for a big dude, and he had this presence about him. And yeah, I think he's one of the better big guys we've had in wrestling. So I would say yes.
All right, we got 2 yeses technically now. Jake or Steve, do you give it a third or you say nay?
I say nay, man. I'm sorry, but like if we're gonna put some room, I mean, he was an excellent worker for his size and everything. But if we're gonna talk about like best wrestlers overall in the '90s, and let alone it's a Samoan who's cosplaying as a Japanese wrestler, and we have actually Japanese wrestlers, which I'm gonna bring up soon. So I'm gonna say no.
All right, Jacob, what you thinking?
With all due respect to the memory of Rodney Anoa'i, rest in peace, I'm going to go no. Because he basically was the recipient of the first monster push, like from Survivor Series 92 to Mania 10, or Mania 9, excuse me. Like, that was like the first example of rocketing someone to the top. But the rocket ran out of fuel real fast. Started out the decade as WWF champion, and by the end, he was working Heroes of Wrestling. That's not something to aspire to. So, graceful for his size, he hits a leg drop like I've never seen, but unfortunately, no.
All right, so we are split, which means it would be up to me, JPO, to say yay or nay. And I do hate to say nay, unfortunately. Yokozuna will not make the list here. Much love and respect here. He is somebody that was kind of on my short list, but I found 12 that I think belong a little bit more here. I think that heyday is about 2 years. You know what I mean? It's really, like you said, the end of 92, beginning of 93, and then by 95, 96, he's kind of in tag teams, and then he's out of the company before it's even, 97, 98. I think everyone else on my list here beat him in both longevity of the 90s, match quality of the 90s, and also promos. He had a great look and everything, but, never really had to do much outside of for talking either. So we will now go to Richie for his first nomination.
T.L. Hopper. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I'll go for a guy that, you could have made an argument for the 80s, but I think he fits more in this realm. I'm going to go Sting.
Steve.
No.
What?
No, about you. No, Sting.
The dirty white boy, Tony Anthony. Shout out to Cass and Same Human Rule.
This one?
Yeah.
All right, make your claims today. I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I just think he's obviously that's one of the most over gimmicks in wrestling. Probably one of the best successful gimmicks in wrestling, probably outside of Undertaker. And we might talk about that later. I just think as much stuff to surface Sting, but NWO Sting, the NWO Sting really, the Crow Sting really cemented itself as just this great presence. And if you believe things, apparently Razor Ramon came up with that. Having not seen the Crow, I don't know if I believe that fully, but it's still a really good gimmick, and I think Steve Borden pulled it off really well. And it's crazy that he only just retired, and he's he's a huge presence in wrestling. I think he deserves to be on this list.
All right, we got one for the Stinger. Steve, are you going to bring a Stinger splash?
You know what? I am actually going to vote for Sting. So I wasn't a big WCW fan, but when I tuned into WCW, anything that everybody was talking about was when is Sting coming back? Why did Sting leave? And this was the time when he left. When he's left and then became, the pro Sting, and then there's this anticipation between him and Hulk Hogan, and it's a year-long build-up that that kind of ended up a little at the end of it because of what the match ended up being. But like besides the fact his body of work, his work in War Games consistently, whether he's going against the Dangerous Alliance or going against the Four Horsemen, he always had put his body on the line to entertain the audience, and he kept doing that for decades on decades. And I think when we come to the 20s, I probably vote for Sting for one of the best wrestlers of the 20s because he put up a body work of AEW. Like probably his best body work was in AEW, in my opinion. But yeah, I'm gonna say yes.
I'm going to fight you on that, but we're not there yet. Jim, what are you thinking?
This is an easy yes for me. Sting's one of my all-time favorites, and just where he started out in the decade to where he ended, it's like an evolution that needs to be studied in terms of how someone can start off like bright colors, Surfer Sting, California, to where he ends up as the Crow Sting. Like that is like evolution in the best way possible. Like Mesa brought up the War Games matches. I'll throw his matches in with Vader that he had over like 92 and 93 as just so good at what he did. And then there was stuff with the NWO and all of that. Even if the creative failed him, Sting never did. So yeah, this is an easy yes.
Evolution was mid-2000s.
Yeah, so I had to make that joke. Spoilers. Barber doesn't matter because he's in. I'm going to give this a yes as well here. I think, again, when you look at the decade, his first world title win is in 1990, Great American Bash, War Games, the Crow Sting, which just gave him another breath of life here. Because I love colorful Sting. One of my favorite original toys is whatever those big dog toys were called. There's somebody made in San Francisco, maybe. His light blue one. I love that one growing up here, and of course the Crow Sting giving another breath of life here. Really fun twist into that here, coming from the rafters, the mask everyone wanted to own, and then even his title wins. They kind of screwed up a little bit, like at Starrcade and stuff here. But every time he won the title, it was always kind of felt like a moment and a cool thing, and I think he belongs here. So, Barbara, what would you have said though?
No.
Why? It doesn't matter.
Not to me yet.
No, this would have also been an easy yes for me. Like, young elementary school kid me, Sting was my favorite wrestler. I dressed up as him for Halloween. Teacher told me to keep the mask off though, which was rude, because it just wasn't the same. But the evolution of his character, match quality, like everything. I think Sting had it all. It would have been an easy yes for me. Not that it matters.
I muted. 1-11 to go. Steve, what you thinking for your nomination?
I am thinking for my first nomination, Misawa. He is a Masahiro Misawa. Excuse me. He is a gentleman that I came late to the game with. I didn't really get caught up with work until we had we had the unfortunate timing of being locked down. So whenever we were locked down, I was on High Spots. They had Misawa DVD. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna dive in deep with it. Gonna put my name in it for a $20 Misawa collector set, and then from there on, I was hooked. I bought a Misawa shirt. I had a Misawa towel. I was a Misawa fanatic. When we're talking about Misawa, I think actually a couple days ago was the 30th anniversary of his match with Kawada, where the match ended with Tiger Driver 91. And if you don't know what that is, that means he dropped you on your head. So if he's not dropping you on your fucking head with Tiger Driver 91, he's either hitting you with Emerald Flosion or an elbow. In this case, Misawa is God when he delivers his elbow. So we not only that, but his tag team matches with Kobashi against Akira Trio and Kawada, his matches against Stan Hansen, both of them actually, his tag match with Stan Hansen, and a great 6-man tag that includes Akira Trio, Johnny Ace, and Kawada versus Kobashi, Misawa, and Stan Hansen. Now, if that lineup don't tickle your fancy, then I don't know what does. But Misawa should be on this list.
First of all, let's be careful with our usages of Johnny Ace and tickling. If you know, you know.
Jesus Christ.
Hey, he went there, and also props to me for correctly spelling Mitsuharu. Jacob Cameron, what do you think?
One of us was going to, but this is a yes for me. And to be honest with you, I did not consider Misawa like in my internal list, but I'm so glad, Mesa, that you brought him up because Misawa's awesome. Like, I may be bringing up one of his other pillars of heaven a little later if we get that far, and I think that we will. But Misawa's great. Like his match against Jumbo Tsuruta, I can't remember that exact date, but it was June of '90. Was phenomenal. It's one of the legit like when the 1, 2, 3 happens, one of the loudest reactions I've ever heard. And then he had a match with Stan Hansen where he legit I thought he knocked Hansen out with an elbow. It was like he knocked and then Hansen just folds under and then falls, and I'm just like, get the smelling salts for this man. He's out. But yeah, Misawa's great. That's a yes for me.
So we got 2 yeses. So kind of in a way might come up to me because it depends on if I say yes or no. I'll give it a yes. I'll put him in. I am not as familiar as you two are, but I do like having a little bit of everything, representation of North Japan, which I think I know from what I have seen is great stuff. He is a legend. I know people will shout him out. Chris Hero, Eddie Kingston. So I think there's a spot for deserving on this list. Hey, Jacob Barber, still doesn't matter, but what do you think?
I don't like this show anymore. I don't want to be here. Like you said, it doesn't matter. So, I'll abstain.
All right, cool. Urgent?
Yeah, I mean, I would have said yes because I obviously know him. Know his legacy. I didn't really see many of his matches, but I was impressed with what I saw. I guess maybe going forward, I'll say if you've got a whole list of New Japan guys on your list, you might get a bit disappointed just given that I have I had small access back then in the 90s, and then even now my access isn't great. So I think you and Jacob are more knowledgeable about New Japan in general than I am. But yeah, look, I'm happy to have a diverse top 12. So yeah, I would say yes.
Yeah, I don't want to say I'm Spider-Man, but everyone gets one. Jacob Cameron, what you got?
So my first nomination is the best there is, there was, and there ever will be. It's Bret Hart.
Owen.
Facts.
We may get to him, but Bret Hart is awesome. Bret Hart is great. The new generation, from '93 to '97, was awful stuff. I've watched most of it. It is aged like milk in the Florida sun. But Bret Hart is one of those guys that no matter where you put him, he'll always deliver. He had a random match on an In Your House against the wrestler now known as PCO. The feud was over the fact that PCO stole his jacket and sunglasses. And the match was somehow great. So Bret Hart literally was a master of pulling water from a stone. And it doesn't matter who you put him in the ring with. He made it work. And so it didn't matter if it was not false count anywhere, but no DQ match against Steve Austin, or if it's stuff against Owen. It does not matter. You put Bret Hart in that ring in the 90s, it's an automatic thumbs up. So my nomination, my first one, is Bret Hart.
Fun fact, if you had asked the 6-year-old JPO, I would have said no. Bret Hart bored me. I was a big Shawn Michaels fan. My grandmother got me a VHS of his. I got it on Christmas Eve. We got one gift on Christmas Eve. And I said, can I please open up another thing? Because I don't want to watch this. But I have love and respect for Hart. Hey, man, I was more entertained with the Heartbreak Kid. Bret Hart bored the shit out of me. But he still had fantastic matches in the 90s. As Jacob said, whether it's that, a Hakushi match, a Jerry Lawler match, 1, 2, 3 Kid on Raw, Shawn Michaels, of course, hell, probably pulling out Psycho Sid's best matches as well, Diesel's best matches. You'd go on for a little bit here. Yeah, absolutely belongs on the list here. You know what I mean? This is, unfortunately, I think the only decade we're going to nominate Bret Hart for. If you can try for the 2000s, you're weirdos. But no, this is the only nomination that he will get, but it's actually rightfully so. Jacob Berber, it does matter. What do you got?
How dare you forget Bret Hart's fantastic 2010 run?
That's 10s rather. Yeah, that's right. So he could be nominated for the next 2 episodes.
But yeah, in the 90s, I think he absolutely deserves to be on the list. He's, the excellence of execution. He's the best. Yeah, like all these nicknames, he's earned them. I will say, I think the one downfall of his is his promo work. I don't think he was the best on the mic, but he made up for that immensely by his in-ring work. So yeah, like that Hakushi match that you mentioned, that match is fantastic. His SummerSlam main event with Bulldog is fantastic. He had a Owen Hart tribute match with Chris what's his name on an episode of Nitro, and that was fantastic. So, like the dude could get it done in the ring, and I think he deserves to be on the list.
Hey, Richie.
Yeah, obviously Bret Hart and it deserves to be on this list, so I'd say yes. But like the dude could have, the saying goes, he could have like a great match with the Brute. He's just one of the best wrestlers of all time. Even the match he claims is like the worst match of his career, the one with Bob Backlund, WrestleMania 11. 11? Yeah. If you go back and watch it, it's not that bad. This match is fine. I don't think Bob Backlund should have won a championship or anything at the end of the day, but it is what it is. I think Bret Hart is much deserving on this list, so absolutely is.
And Mesa Media.
Bret Hart has 3 of my favorite matches of all time. Owen Hart at WrestleMania 10, Roddy Piper at WrestleMania 9, and of course my favorite match of all time, Stone Cold Steve Austin submission match, WrestleMania 13. So the fact that he has 3 of my favorite matches of all time means he deserves to be on this fucking list.
How come you didn't tell him Burgos didn't matter?
What?
Another match that I'll throw out there is from one of the last pay-per-views of '95. It was him and Bulldog again, and it was completely different from their SummerSlam match. And it's not as good as that one, but the SummerSlam match is like you can never replicate that. But it's really underrated. Like Brett Blades. It's got Jim Cornette with a little Santa racket at ringside. It's phenomenal stuff.
Yeah, so Brett will be the third person to make the list here. My first nomination, name dropped just recently because of good old Bretsky. I don't know how I'm the one to say it because I'm going last. Stone Cold Steve Austin, baby. Let's just all flip our boards with a yes. I mean, this dude is the 90s. He is the second boom of pro wrestling. You got Hogan in the 80s, bringing it to the next level. It died down a little bit here, and then maybe would also help to save the Midnight Wars. Stone Cold, the second boom here. Everyone wanted that's also 316 T-shirt here. He was he was the epitome of that change from the next new generation, bright colors to we're now in the flipping the bird, beating the shit out of our boss here. Vince never took a good stunner, but we loved every time he took it. Fantastic promos here. Some good matches as well, whether you mentioned the Bret Hart 97 stuff, the stuff he would do with The Rock, the stuff he would do with Dude Love, the stuff he would do. Stone Cold was the number one guy here. The most untoyetic action figure, but I'm pretty sure we all had a Stone Cold action figure. Barber, Stone Cold, come on.
I'm more of a stunning Steve Austin fan.
And you know what? If we're talking 90s, a really fun run.
We're doing same human rule. It doesn't matter.
Yes, we're talking their decade. So.
No, like you said it perfectly. I'm not gonna add very much. I mean, yeah, like you don't think of 90s wrestling and don't think of Stone Cold. Like he's one of the faces of the 90s. Matches, promos. He did it all. His feud with Vince is legendary. So it's a pretty easy yes. I imagine him in like the top 3 minimum.
Richie.
Yeah, it's an absolute yes. I think this is like it almost represents sort of the turnaround for WWF in their war of WCW. The fact that they were able to build the star sort of almost organically, but also accidentally, because like he wasn't initially. I would argue his run sort of started at the 1996 King of the Ring, which he wasn't supposed to win. It was meant to be Triple H. It's a cool story, starting off from a dude who wasn't, really respected, and then then coming in as a ringmaster, very generic guy, and just betting on himself, like that's sort of like the theme of especially lately, betting on yourself with the MJF. So and it caught fire, man. He's when you think of wrestling in the 90s, I feel like he's the one person you think of. So I mean, he'd at least be in the top 3, if not number 1. So I would say yes.
Steve, are you about to crack open a can of Steve Weiser?
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, of course, Stone Cold Steve Austin has to be on this list. I mean, for the love of God, I have an autographed frame of him on my fucking wall. There's no way that I'm not going to say no to Stone Cold Steve Austin. He is an icon. And still, with his last match against Kevin Owens, I know we're talking about the 90s, but he went on his own in the last match in a match with Kevin Owens, so that way he can probably have that as one of his last matches instead of having his last match against The Rock, where he didn't really want to leave, but he had to. But no, I mean, from his days in WCW to the cup of tea he had in ECW, a memorable cup of tea that he had in ECW, to full-fledged joining WWF and becoming one of the best wrestlers that they ever produced, one of the best WWF superstars that they've ever had. For sure, he deserves to be on this.
Before you vote, Jacob Cameron, in case you're not sold, he's a fucking cat guy. Could you not love him more?
Actually, no. I'm just kidding.
a man after my own heart. But in all seriousness, though, I know he's in no matter what, and my vote doesn't matter. But regardless, I would have absolutely said yes. A portion of the 90s run of his that hasn't been brought up yet, touched on but not specifically brought up, is his run with Brian Pillman in the Hollywood Blondes. Like, that team was literally thrown together because Dusty Rhodes was like, I've got nothing for you guys to do, so team up. And they somehow found a way to make that work. So, like, Austin's one of the greatest of all time, and his ECW promos just, I know Mesa touched on them briefly, but like where he does the Monday NyQuil skit and Bongo, and it makes me laugh every time I watch it.
Yeah, good stuff here. Barbara, what you got for round 2?
Round 2, not Yokozuna.
I agree.
All right. You mentioned Stone Cold, a guy that's pretty familiar with Stone Cold. Maybe not in the 90s as much as the 2000s, but let's go with The Rock. Yeah, debuted as Rocky Maivia only in the last half of the 90s, but I do think that he made such an impact in the 90s that he deserves to be on this list. Yeah, he had a short career overall. As far as WWE goes, only that it was like 7 years total, spanning from the 90s to the 2000s. But I think he made an impact. He was one of the best talkers. Once that Rocky Maivia stuff was dropped, and he became The Rock, like the Nation, Corporate Rock, whatever it was, he made it work. And yeah, some pretty memorable moments, some memorable matches. So I'll go with The Rock. All 3 of them.
Yeah. But yeah, obviously, I'd argue like he probably fits more. I mean, yeah, he was more a focus in the 2000s because of circumstances. But like, yeah, he was around more in the 90s, obviously. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, from being like this sort of very brought up as this very generic baby face that like, hey, yeah, like the clapping hands, kissing babies sort of thing, where it's like this white meat baby face that I don't know how they thought that was going to really get over people. So I don't know if I'd go as hard as say die Rocky die. That's a bit harsh, but look, he made it work with the heel thing, and then yeah, that's like superstar emerged, where it's like, man, this dude's amazing on the mic, and yeah, and he had great matches as well, and yeah, just the pretty much most charismatic guy we've ever had in wrestling, and yeah, like that's why it's like, you'll always anticipate his his return. That's why I think yeah, The Rock coming back early this year. I think it really worked out because of the performer Rock is. So, and it's no surprise he's he blew up in Hollywood, so obviously he was going to. So yeah, absolutely, The Rock. Yes.
Steve, do you third it? Do you raise an eyebrow?
I definitely third it. I mean, he part of the University of Miami Hurricanes, part of the U. So I gotta have my homeboy, Mr. Dwayne Johnson on this list. I mean, from what you guys said, he basically from '96 to '99, he was, obviously he had a rough start as Rocky Maivia, but once he started, of course, just focusing on those Rocky die chants and just started becoming the villain to become eventually the corporate champion. I think he had some of his best work in the '90s. I know he had 2 years in the 2000s, but I think the majority of his best work happened in the '90s. So I think he definitely deserves to be on this list as well.
All right, Jacob, do you smell it as well?
Yes, I do in fact smell it. This is yet another easy yes. And I was watching Reliving the War on Wrestling Bios' channel just earlier today, and there was like the segment where the Rock and Sock connection formed for the first time. It's like the promo where he's like, "The Big Show, pull your trunks down. The Undertaker, your 33-pound head." And I'm just like, this is so dumb, but it works so much. Like in the late 90s, he was more of a talker, but then you get to the year 2000, and that was his best year. And like calendar from January to December, The Rock just could not be touched that whole year. So, like, The Rock is an easy yes.
No, I'll make it a clean sweep here as well. You had the white meat baby face kind of coming out here. Showed that he got some initial skill here. Wasn't quite working here. Could have even been on the cusp of being released. But they listened to the chants. He said, "Give me some mic time." He became the trash-talking Rock that we know and love still to this day. Fun for seeing their heel Rock return. Some great stuff with the Nation Domination. Even when he turned on Farouk, giving everybody watches, but Farouk just a signed picture of himself. Like, fun stuff like that here. And then, he's champ by 98. You know what I mean? Fun. Even another twist to screw over Mankind. Rumble 99, following by a great WrestleMania main event in 99 as well. Top of the ladder here. Even before that, ladder match with Triple H is great, fantastic at SummerSlam. Like, there's definitely enough here where I think he does deserve to be in this 12. Where are we at, Richie?
Yeah, me. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna go with I think still one of the best gimmicks of all time, and one that shouldn't have worked, but it does. He's got superpowers. I'm gonna go The Undertaker. I think The Undertaker's debut was one of the best debuts. I think, coming over from WCW as Mean Mark Callis, you don't know what to expect, but he was treated really well as like this ominous sort of presence from the get go, and like he was really he got really really over, like, and that as soon as you hear that song, like, it's like no other. You still, you heard it on this year. It still resonates. It's just that there's some. No one has the aura, like there's very few have the aura. I should say. I don't think
is it me or is he underwater?
Sound like underwater.
It's not just.
I can't hear you all of a sudden, Richie.
Better now.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah.
Very few people hold that sort of aura about, like the Undertaker does. So, I definitely think he deserves to be on this list. He had a few slight gimmick change-ups with the Ministry of Darkness, you could say a lot about the higher power storyline, but he made the best out of what he was given, and I think he's I think he's really pivotal to the '90s. So Undertaker.
Steve, would you kidnap Stephanie McMahon? And your answer to this?
Back in the day, yes.
No.
I'm gonna have, you know what? Because I'm struggling whether I like Taker, 90s Takers or 2000s Taker better. But the fact that he has actually great the first couple of Hell in Cell matches he made classic with his first one against Shawn Michaels, and I believe the third one against Mankind. I believe it's the third one. I think I could be wrong, but the fact that he has those two matches, those classics in the 90s, I'm gonna definitely give it a yes. Like I said, I was struggling whether he had a stronger body of work in the 90s or 2000s, and I had a lot of more people that I think should be recognized on those lists. But if we're going to recognize the body of work, I'm going to definitely want to have Undertaker on here. Yes.
Yeah, so to clarify real quick, too, there's the really weird, not weird, but there's a Raw Tag Team Tornado where Undertaker and Stone Cold defeated Mankind and Kane, literally a week before the infamous King of the Ring. So it is technically number 3. Jacob Cameron, he struggled a little bit. Are you struggling? Yes or no?
I am a little, yeah. Undertaker's one of my all-time favorites. However, I think for the 90s, I'm going to have to say no, because my reasoning for this is that I think, to Mesa's point, I think his work in the 2000s, I think, had more substance to it. Because in the 90s, The Undertaker was throwing just some crap. Just some awful stuff. From 94 to 96, he feuded with the $1 Million Corporation almost exclusively. A stable that included King Kong Bundy,
Kama Mustafa,
Kama,
and
Ted DiBiase, obviously.
He had 2 pay-per-view matches with Giant Gonzalez, which, no offense to the man himself, but I mean, Giant Gonzalez was more of an ent than a human.
What's the second one with Gonzalez?
SummerSlam, the Rest in Peace match.
Any better?
Not really, but at least there's a pinfall at the end, unlike the Mania match. I guess with the 2000s era Taker, there was more substance to what was going on. So I'm going to have to say no for the 90s, but just barely.
Fair.
I know what you're saying. This is the same struggle I'm having with as well. If he... Oh. Am I here? Now I'm here. No, I'm not. Now I am. Yes, I am.
Yep.
I know what you mean, because I'm having the same struggle as well. If he made it, it would be very towards the end of the list. Especially because I think I'd let Misawa slip in. I think I'm also going to have to say no in a super slight way, because I do think, his debut is cool, and then doesn't do much for a couple of years, and then he fights himself in not that great of a match, and at SummerSlam '94, and his Mania matches also aren't really that good until kind of '96. And then maybe 98. Every other Mania match is just fine and not bad. That's not great. He's got some title wins, which is cool, and the Ministry's a lot of fun, so it's close, but it's not quite there. But he's got one more shot, depending on what Barber says.
It matters.
Yeah, it finally matters.
A lot.
Oh man. I side with 2 of you. And the 2 that I sided with, I'm gonna have to. I was struggling too, and I was hearing points from both sides. It was almost like a debate going on, and I'm like, oh, that's a good point. Oh, but that's a good point. And ultimately, I think I'm gonna have to say no. I think yeah. As far as character work, like if we were talking just character work, I think we put him up there. But when you factor all of it in, and the fact that he doesn't have a lot of like those great matches that you can think of. Yes, he's got that King of the Ring match. He's got a few here and there, but yeah, his 2000s work. Like when we do 2000s, he's gonna be a lock for sure. But yeah, 90s, it's just like so there were several more moments where I can think of the bad than I can the good. Like and that sucks because the Undertaker is a legend and an icon for a reason. But yeah, the 90s was a little rough, so I'll give it a slight no.
And let's be clear. Taker in the 2000s wasn't perfect by any means. I mean, you got pretty much his angering at Chris Canyon's entire existence in that decade, and then you got the Concrete Crypt shenanigans. It was just...
And he also wasn't Kid Rock. I mean, you know.
Yeah. That's a good point, too, yes.
American Murder.
Well, his chances will rest in... Oh, I can't do the eye thing. It hurts. Steve, what you got?
Next up, I have a gentleman that we talked about Austin. I have an Austin autographed Schamberg right next to my wall here. And then on the other side of it, I have one Jushin Thunder Liger. And Jushin Thunder Liger is a person who definitely needs to be on this list. He is a 9-time IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion, a WCW Light Heavyweight Champ, an 8-time J Crown Champion, and an IWGP Junior Tag Title Champion with the Great Sasuke. He had a banger of a match with Flying Brian Pillman at Super Brawl. He had some great matches in New Japan with Owen Hart that should be seen. And he has a Pegasus Kid. I mean, despite how we feel as him being a human being, that match was a pretty great match. But yeah, he put up bangers of a match, and he's been putting up work after work after work, especially in the 90s, especially his work in the Best of the Super Juniors, especially in 1996, which is probably the best iteration of the Best of the Super Juniors that they will ever have. So with that being said, I nominate Jushin Thunder Liger.
My ears are bleeding. Jacob Cameron, what you got?
You know, Liger's another name that I didn't really consider at the moment, but hearing Mesa, I think I'm going to have to go yes on this one. And Mesa put it more eloquently than I ever could, but I want to add one more piece of evidence. Liger had a match with the Great Muta, and I can't remember exactly what event, and I think Mesa knows the one I'm talking about, where basically Muta rips up like Liger's like big old bodysuit, and underneath you don't see Liger's face, you see Kishin Liger, this big old like he's like in white face paint with like bloodshot like black eyes, and he's like dripping like this black liquid out of his mouth. I'm like, what is this? And he like he goes more vicious with it, and I think he tries to like stab Muta at one point.
Yeah, he tried to stab him, man, with a fucking screwdriver.
Yeah, that was great. So there was more layers to Liger than just what you see with like the Pillman stuff and the Owen stuff and the Sasuke stuff, and that's all great. So Liger's a name I didn't consider, but now hearing Mesa's case, I gotta say yes.
No, Mesa did make a lot of good points, and that's why I'm going to say no. Steve did make a really good claim. Again, maybe it's although I have probably seen more Liger than I had Misawa. We have other people that affected mute yourself, whoever that is. That affected me more personally. That they also left more of a global impact here. I think again he's had something else to kind of sought out here. I'm sure his match quality is as good as anyone, not better than some of these people, but it just doesn't hit me as much. And so I'll leave it up to Jacob and Richie. Jacob, what you got?
Yeah, I know I've seen a good amount of his stuff, but I'm just not super familiar with him. So yeah, unfortunately, I didn't do like my Japanese homework for this, which is a shame. I mean, there's a lot of really good, Japanese wrestling out there, and Liger's a name that obviously I know, but yeah, just haven't seen enough to give a proper opinion, so I'll have to say no.
All right, Richie, it's all up to you.
Is it, or does it matter still?
Yeah, it's 2-2.
Steve said
cool.
yes, but me and Barbara said no, so it's up to you.
Okay, cool. All right, that makes it right. Yeah, I think sort of made a case on here a few times. I think we did a cruiserweight draft a while ago, and I think I was able to get him number one, I believe, or close to it. So yeah, I do hold him as one of the best cruiserweights of all time. Look, when we're doing the ranking, I don't know where he would sort of come into it. I feel like I might put him just in the lower end, just because I've seen more of some of the other people that probably be brought up. But I will say yes.
Yeah, let's go, Richie.
Really wasn't sure where you're going with that. Back and forth.
Yeah, that's the idea. Like, I want to keep you on your toe.
You did a good job. So that he is the sixth person to make it in, which means we have half the list left to go. Jacob Cameron, who would you like to nominate?
So remember when we were talking about Undertaker in the 90s and the 2000s? Well, here's another chapter in that, except I'm going to throw out Shawn Michaels onto the table. Now, I'll be the first to say that like Shawn Michaels' like last run from 2002 to 2010 was like the stuff of legend. However, the legends had to start somewhere, and it started in the 90s. From the Rockers' breakup, to the start of a singles feud, to the match with Marty Jannetty, to basically everything throughout like 95 to 97. Shawn was a lot like Bret in that you put him in the ring with anyone, you were going to have the best match of your career. He had a great match with Jeff Jarrett at In Your House 2. He had like the first Iron Man match in WWF history with Bret Hart. He had the first ladder match, technically speaking, with Bret Hart. It was at a house show, but it was released later, so it's like unofficial. But then he had the official first ladder match at Mania 10 with Razor Ramon. So we can argue all day and long, like quality-wise, 90s or 2000s, which is better. But I think for the 90s, HBK deserves to be in the conversation.
Yeah, no, just to reiterate that, yeah, this definitely doesn't. It's up to you. It doesn't have to be a fight about which decade is better. If they belong in both, they belong in both. So yeah, 100%. I'm giving you your first yes here. Yeah, I mean, you kind of set the pace here. I mean, first of all, really fun tag team of him and the Rockers. You know what I mean? They would later on in the 2000s, even reteam. That means something. It's over a decade plus, and people are kind of excited to see them back together here. Great heel turn, barbershop. Super kick through the window, bloody, ripping up the magazine, memorable, fantastic heel run. Him and Sensational Sherry, the original annoying Boy Toy music, when she sang it, is iconic. Then you start to see really fun Rockers gear. You start to see the iconic Shawn Michaels gear. That's still some of my favorite toys to this day here. His original Hasbro, one of his first heel Hasbro. They later on doing the Mattel line. Great heel run. This is where you start to see great matches, as Jacob said too. Like, I remember that Bret Hart ladder match because it's on like Wrestling Cool Matches or something like that. So I remember watching that as well. And of course, the iconic first one on pay-per-view with Razor Ramon. Great heel run there, and the great babyface turn. You know what I mean? Owen Hart injuring him passing out, going to the Iron Man, winning for the Rumble, and going to the Iron Man match. Having great matches with Mankind, Vader's best WWF match, and then even the great DX heel guys, DX, one of the big of the 90s here, right there with NWO as well. That's a good fight to have, NWO or DX. Having more fun there until, of course, the sabbatical after March of 98, and then even having some fun as Commish too. But I think absolutely belongs here in the 90s. Barber, what you think?
90 Shawn Michaels, I guess. No, he needs to be on the list. Yeah, like everything you guys said, I'll just echo it. Yeah, great in-ring work. It was highly entertaining in DX. Like that was just so much fun. He deserves to be in both 90s, 2000s. You can argue which one you like better. I'm just gonna like both of them because both of them were fantastic for different reasons. Shawn Michaels absolutely makes it.
Richard.
I have to say yes here. He was great in the '90s. It was cut short. That Hell in a Cell match still holds up. Even the match that kind of shortened. We thought shortened his career with the the bump on the casket. I mean, the Undertaker match is really good. He deserves a spot on this list, and he's I think the total package, and not Lex Luger. I think he's a total package. Oh, he's superstar.
Sorry, no, Lex Luger.
Sorry.
Sorry.
I had a soft spot for him. Let me not read the line. But yeah, I would definitely say yes. I forget all as well that like he's not like while he's gone, he's not really out of the limelight a lot because he becomes commissioner in like a couple of years and then he's sort of in and out. So, So I would like to see an alternative timeline where he is in NWO and and it didn't disband the way it did. So I'd see where that shaked out. But definitely yes.
Steve, is that a clean sweep for being a sexy boy, or?
Oh, you know it, baby. Definitely, the sexy boy should definitely be on this list. Like Jacob put it, there has to be a beginning, and his beginning was legendary from his time with the Rockers. Even if we were to go back to his AWA, I know we'll shine a little brief back on his 80s run with the Rockers in AWA. They were fantastic in AWA, and then they got picked up by WWF for the first time, and then got picked up again because shenanigans and all that stuff. But yeah, man, his run in the 90s was like nobody else's up until 1998. DX, two classic ladder matches with Razor Ramon, the first ever Iron Man match. I think, like I mentioned before, I mentioned before that one of my first matches that I really loved when I got into wrestling was the Iron Man match between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 12. So without him or without recognizing how great that match was, I don't think I would be a wrestling fan, or I wouldn't be a wrestling fan at that moment. I'd probably be later on. So with that being said, Shawn Michaels definitely deserves to be here.
100%. And Sean, if you're watching, let us know in the DMs why your autograph looks like a penis. Sure, Google it. Seriously, Google it. Every one of them. So Sean will definitely make the list. He's the seventh person to make the list. So it's back to me. I was going to nominate Shawn Michaels, which I was about to say, we're on 3. How are we not at Shawn yet? But now that we are here, I'm going to make a claim for – God damn you, busy people. I'm going to make a claim for somebody who I actually don't even like as a person that much. And I'm thinking about
to take my – I'm going to have to choose someone else. Yeah.
He's one of my least favorite wrestlers of the last decade.
Can we say it together?
I think 90s. Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Bill Goldberg.
Bill Goldberg. You're 100%. I actually didn't say it just in case we're disagreeing. But no, I think Goldberg belongs on this list here. So listen, the facts are, yes, he's towards the end of 98. But again, he is such a trendsetter mover. He is such a merch seller. It is an iconic run that is still, the streak. Oh, look, a Goldberg streak? Like, you still kind of reference him still to this day here of this guy that for once the WCW was pushing a homegrown talent here. Because, I mean, it really was, I guess, since you could say Sting in the 80s, really the first time this had happened recently, because it was Hogan, it was Savage, it was other WWF guys, it was, Sting again, and this was someone that they pushed hard. It was a weekly thing to see who he was going to kill that week, whether it was Regal or Saturn or Hugh Morris or Raven winning the U.S. title, winning it on Nitro, which was kind of crazy here when they decided to do that instead of wait for the pay-per-view here. So it is a little short run, but again, I just think everyone wanted a Goldberg shirt. For the 90s, I think he belongs. And at the time, I loved Goldberg. I don't like him now. But Barber, we're talking the 90s. What do you think about Bill?
We are talking the 90s, and I like 90s Bill Goldberg. I was a fan. 7, 8, 9-year-old me. Every time he came out on the screen, I was like, yeah, that's get him, beat him up, jackhammer. That's what 7, 8, 9-year-old me sounded like. Yeah, he was a presence, and it was something you wanted to see. The streak is an iconic moment, well, a long moment. But yeah, it's something that's still talked about to this day. Say what you want about him now, but yeah, 90s Bill Goldberg, in the short time that he was there, he made an impact. And yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd put him anywhere, top 10. Maybe he's a good 11 or 12 guy, for me personally. But yeah, I think, yeah, I'll give it a slight yes.
Well, spoilers. I think Richie agrees. Richie?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have to say, man. Just I think, when you say top 12 wrestlers, I'm not, maybe there's different ways to interpret that, but I also interpret it as like star power, how they'll push, what impact they made, and I think Goldberg fits that mold a lot. I liked Bill Goldberg back in the day. Because I was young and didn't have access to the internet and his interviews. So, less talking Goldberg is great. Didn't have to hear his opinions. He's he's a force. Sometimes it's a great example of smoke and mirrors that works good in wrestling. I feel like you mentioned William Regal. I think he exposed it a little bit, maybe a lot. But he was still a presence. And look, I think, I mean, it was cool that he had that WWE run at the end there, but he kind of just milked it too much. Then the idea of Goldberg versus Austin was elevating, but we got Goldberg versus Rock, which is decent enough. But yeah, Goldberg's a huge star. He has to be on this list.
Was Goldberg Rock decent? Was it? Steve, what you think?
I don't know.
No, let's move on.
All right, Steve, knock me high on Steve's list. Jacob Cameron, what did you think?
My sentiments echo with Steve.
I mean, no, you know what? That's fair. Like I said, I have a love-hate relationship with him, leaning a lot more recently towards hate. Match quality's not there. I remember even when his first DVD by WWE came out, someone was like, "You gonna buy that?" Because I used to buy all the DVDs. I'm like, no. 3 discs of Goldberg matches does not seem intriguing to me. 1 disc is far too much because it's all the same match. I just think I'm very much arguing kind of like a Hall of Fame standpoint of like the accolades are there. It was my argument that I think Richie and Dave agree with. And again, at the time, I wasn't into it. I'm not going to lie that I wasn't into it at the time. All right, that was me. So, Barber, who's your next nomination?
Yeah, let's go same human rule again and just go with Mick Foley.
Yes.
Mick Foley, whether it's Mankind, Cactus Jack, Dude Love, whatever you want. I think he deserves to be here. Promo work is legendary. He's got some really good matches. Yeah, we mentioned the Hell in a Cell with the Undertaker. Go back to WCW, ECW, whatever. You can find countless matches there as well. The moment of him winning the championship, which WCW thought, oh, that's not gonna draw any viewers, and it ends up drawing quite a bit and being the turning point.
Seats, it did.
Yeah, it absolutely did. Mrs. Foley's Baby Boy. I remember the interview series that he did with JR. That was so good. Probably my favorite just interview promo series. It was so good. He was quite character, and he was able to switch it up, and he did it so good. He's so entertaining, willing to put his body on the line. I'm amazed he was able to do it as long as he did with some of the bumps and spots he was willing to take. Shout out Mrs. Foley's Baby Boy. I think he deserves to be on the list.
Richie,
you cut out a bit, but I didn't even hear. Yeah.
What to do? Richie, what do you got?
I want permission. I want to be a good boy. Obviously yes. I think that was the the moment Tony Schiavone was asked to spoil Raw, shot them in the foot, and it was a great turning point. We're using a lot of TNA references, incidentally, from
Destination X.
for in the war, the Monday Night War, and Mick Foley is just such a lovable character, especially in the '90s mostly it was Mankind, but he it's just such a beloved character. The Hell in a Cell match is still gonna be remembered as one of the craziest matches of all time. The dude's a madman. I'm glad I've had a chance to meet him. I'm also kind of glad he decided not to do his match to for his 60th birthday. I understand why he wanted to do it, but you've given enough of your body, Mick. So he's one of my favorite personalities in wrestling. So absolutely, and if you're gonna vote for him, the '90s is the best part. So yeah.
Steve Mayshaw, what you thinking, baby boy?
Definitely, Mick Foley definitely deserves to be on the list. I mean, also, a little favoritism a little bit. He did marry one of my friends, so it does help that I was there when he officiated one of my friends' weddings, so it kind of helps a little bit. But
shout out, Steve. Shut him out.
Heather, aka Kid Cadet.
I thought you meant
Drew McKenzie. You can follow. What's the TV show they were on? 1 Hour Bride, or what's it called?
Say Yes to the Dress.
Say Yes to the Dress. Yeah. It's a fun episode.
You can watch all that happen. All that, even Mick Foley appearing on a little bit right there.
Yeah.
Say Yes to the Dress. So we already talked about his WWF stuff, but I mean his ECW stuff is incredible. Kane Dewey. The Kane Dewey promo, it's probably one of the best promos I've ever seen, and his work in IWA Japan with Terry Funk to crown the first ever King of Deathmatch. I mean, it's stuff that just is legendary, and it's also great to meet him a couple of times, and he definitely deserves to be on this list because he hasn't done WCW. Even his feud with Vader. Boy, in WCW, holy shit, dude. That cost his rival, his feud with Vader cost him a fucking ear. That's how, and he kept fucking going. He kept going. That motherfucker just kept going no matter what. In Germany, he lost his ear in Germany. That's what I remember. I think Munich, Germany. Am I right? Maybe.
I think you're close. Yeah.
I'm close. I got the right country. Maybe not the right city, but the right country. But yeah, man, Mick Foley definitely fucking deserves to be here, man.
Cameron, do you back that?
Yeah, this is gonna be another yes. His match that he had with Sting at Beach Blast '92, Falls Count Anywhere on the Gulf Coast, is one of my favorites of his. It's such a fun match. The Kane Dewey stuff is, of course, excellent. One of my favorite exits ever, where after beating Mikey Whipwreck, he struts out of the ECW arena with the Blue Meanie and Stevie Richards. It's a really good time. And then, like Barbara brought up the JR series in summer of '97, and then that cage match at SummerSlam, which is very good indeed. King of the Ring '98. You could just go down the list, but Foley is an easy yes.
Hold on. I mean, I gotta think about this for a second. I don't really know. I suppose. And Moose. I met Moose. He was nice.
Poor Moose, this guy. And Moose.
And my friend was in photo. He's the one that paid. And I just slid on in. And free picture with Moose. No, it's a big yes for me as well, on top of the fact that I am very lucky enough to say I have his phone number and name drop. Because I was able to open up for him on 2 different occasions here in Florida. That's where one of the photos was from. So really cool dude. I was able to have one-on-one room with him, time with him in the green room. Awesome guy. And on top of that, just obviously, even besides that, definitely deserves to be on the list from his stuff in Japan. Infamous with Terry Funk. Fantastic ECW run. Not only the matches, but the promos, as Steve said. Going to the WWF, unique character in Mankind that I think would have failed, given to most other people, but he was able to run with it because again, you believed it, and then you also believed him when he was Dude Love, and you had a lot of fun with that for a little bit. Returning as Cactus Jack for a couple of one-off occasions, with Triple H, fun stuff. Again, that just horrible be on the mat Royal Rumble '99 match with Rock, but it's still got to give him credits for guts to winning that title finally. Put butts in seats, but it made everyone tune over because I think there was love for him. They wanted to see that happening, and it's truly like a feel good moment of a guy who you didn't necessarily think might finally ever grasp that big old brass ring, but absolutely did. Jacob, did you talk about him yet? Whose nomination was this?
I brought him up.
Oh, then cool. Then you agree. All right.
I'm gonna have to say no.
So he'll to make it, and I'll just put him in as Mick Foley because he did in the '90s, literally did everything gimmick wise. So it's hard to kind of put one over the other. So that is 9. So we have 3 more left. Richie, do you have one of the 3 that we'll agree with?
I hope so. I'll just quickly say I initially thought Steve meant that he knows Mick Foley's wife, not that someone married. Anyway, I was like, oh, that's interesting.
I also was like, his random wife. All right, cool.
But yeah, look, I don't know where this is going to go, but when he took Goldberg, I was thinking other homegrown WWE stars. There's only really a couple that come to mind, and one I think is kind of deserving this list. And one guy who became more successful than anyone thought he could get, and that's DDP. I think Dom Dallas Page. He started his career at 35 famously, and he's one of the few people they used really well. You could, and he became a great worker very quickly. He got very, very over. He's very charismatic. I think he gave Goldberg his best match, even though most people didn't see it initially because the feed got out and then it showed on Nitro. I just think he was a huge he was a huge star in the '90s. It's sort of measured by I won't hop on it too much, but obviously when he was revealed as Undertaker's wife's stalker, but when he initially unmasked or whatever, the pop he got was huge, because DDP was a huge deal in the '90s. So, just a charismatic guy and a guy I really like to watch, and obviously also doing really well for himself, transforming lives, DDP Yoga. So I don't know. I just think I don't know where it's going to go, but I think it's just worth picking up. So I'm going to do DDP.
Steve, are you doing some DDPY, and what do you say?
While I enjoyed his matches with his series of matches with Macho Man Randy Savage, and even probably his Nitro match against Sting, I'm gonna have to say no. I think there's a whole litany of workers that we can still put on there that are much better workers or much better promo guys that we still have yet to touch. I would have rather had DDP on here than Bill Goldberg if I had the choice, but since we only have Goldberg on here, can't keep both of them. So I'm going to say no.
Sulky Steve.
All right, first no, it is coming to me now, and I hate to back it, but it's kind of similar logic.
You mean Jacob?
Screw you, Jacob. It's coming to me now. I'm sorry, I'm totally joking. Cameron, what you think?
I'm gonna say yes, and DDP is someone who, you look at his story and it's genuinely pretty inspirational if you think about it. He got into it in managing first, and he didn't take his first bump until he was in his early 30s, which, from what I have been told, is a really old age to start doing that. But somehow, some way, he managed to not only get really good at this thing called wrestling, but he was a multiple-time world champion. And he was wrestling like he was in his early 20s and his early 40s, and that is something that should be admired. And so I'm going to give it a yes.
And somebody that has done DDPY and has also had some one-on-one time with DDP. He's a great guy. kind of similar to what Mesa said, not necessarily because of the Goldberg part, because we got Liger in here, we got others that I didn't necessarily see coming. He has unfortunately fallen off my list. There are ones that I have a little bit higher here. So while I do 100% see the argument for a yes, it is a slight no for me as well. Plus, I love saying this. Barbara, it's all up to you.
My vote matters again.
Yeah.
Well, I did not make a list for this, actually. I went into this, and I'm like, I'm going to go based off feeling. How do I feel in the moment? And in the moment, I'm thinking, no. But it's really close. If we were doing like a top 15, top 20, it would be an easy yes. I think he's just outside that top 12. I think, yeah. Yeah, like it's inspirational, like the way he came in late, but he picked up on it very quick. He was very, very good in the ring. He was decent on the mic. He was over with the crowd. Shout out to him nowadays for what he's doing with the DDP yoga. Like some of the stories that he's able to share are absolutely inspirational. I watched the one with Butterbean recently, and I'm like, wow, that's really amazing. Back to 90s
Even
DDP.
Cool. I was training with one of his friends, and his friend was like, "Hey, I got a surprise for you," and it was a fucking just personal phone call from DDP, like giving inspirational words. Like, didn't have to do that. Nobody paid him a dime. He didn't fucking know me, obviously. So,
Right.
like, yeah, he's a good.
Yeah. So, I mean, if that was a factor, it would be an easy yes. But since we're talking 90s, and yeah, there's only a few spots left, and there's still a few that I can think of that I would put over him personally. It's a slight no, but I'm not happy about it either.
Happy.
Richie,
No
I
self
tried.
high fives tonight.
I'm not crying. They're just raining on my face.
Remember when you put in Juice Miller Liger, Richie? That's your fault. So doing great. What you got for your information, and what Japanese wrestler is this?
Actually, I think I'm going to break the trend and not go with the Japanese wrestler, but I will go with a cruiserweight. And I've got to represent my Latinos out there. I'm going with Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio has been working since he was 14 years old.
Still going.
1989. Think about that and how he's still out there busting his ass in WWE, still giving out great matches, if I say so myself. He had a great 2 out of 3 falls match with Psychosis on an episode of Triple A. He had a title versus mask match, Halloween Havoc 97, guys. That's one of my favorite matches of all time. And his gear, dude, the gear in Halloween Havoc is iconic, but his gear throughout his evolution in terms of what he's been wearing, it's just off the charts. I mean, he's been kicking ass in Mexico, and he was brought over to ECW by Paul Heyman to bring cruiserweights to America, along with Psychosis and Juventud Guerrera, before Eric Bischoff went on to pick off of those 3 individuals to bring them to WCW. In what Paul Heyman would say, it's stole his idea, which it's probably true. Stole the idea, and he made the cruise. He was the highlight. Him and the Cruiserweight were the highlight of every episode of Nitro. I will say that, bar none. The best match of any Nitro was the Cruiserweight matches, and he was part of the large percentage of those matches. Hell, he even had a great matches with another guy who's on this list, Liger, in Starrcade '96. I mean, you can also argue with it. He also had great work in 2002, but like we were talking about, also not many people in the 90s and 2000s, but without his work in the 90s, you wouldn't have his work in 2000s, or his work now, or his work as part of the All In main event, as part of Lucha Underground with his matches against Ricochet, which are probably underseen in my opinion. But yeah, Rey Mysterio definitely needs to be on this list.
Well, Steve's passionate when he starts repeating words just louder. His gear. His gear.
His fucking gear.
Cameron. Rey Mysterio, Budoka. What you think?
Rey Mysterio had some Spider-Man gear that is like fantastic, but Yeah, this is an easy yes for me. Rey Mysterio is another one of my all-time favorites. He had a great match with, I believe it was Juventud Guerrera at Big Ass Extreme Bash. He did a Hurricane Rana off the hood of a car, and I remember seeing it for the first time. I was like, my head exploded like that dude in the movie Scanners. Just, I'm like, how is that possible? But Rey Mysterio, his longevity needs to be studied. He's still going strong today. And he started out like when he was 14, like Mesa pointed out. And like, regardless of like company era, doesn't matter. He's always delivered. Even I'm kind of getting a soft spot for his run in the Filthy Animals when he had to demask and was teamed with Billy Kidman a lot. That was a lot of fun for what it was. So disrespectful, probably, but like I thought he was still really good. So yeah, this is getting a yes from me.
Oh man, I hate to be the spoiler so far. I'll give it a slight note because I do have people hired. Maybe I'm a main event whore as well because again, I feel like he's had great matches. I don't know. I just kind of think his impact was quite smaller. No pun intended. The other people I still have on my list here, although again, definitely would be no problems if it did make it. So it's up to Barber and Richie. Maybe just Barber. Barber.
Yeah, this is a tough one because you can't deny the in-ring work of Rey Mysterio. It's fantastic, and yeah, like was mentioned, more often than not, the cruiserweight matches in WCW were the best matches of the night, and Rey was a huge part of that. Yeah, his Halloween Havoc match with Eddie is legendary. I think there's a case to be made for him to make the 2000s and the 2010s as well, the 2020s if we get that far. I would love to see him on all four lists because I'm giving him a yes.
Let's fucking go.
All right, Rich, doesn't matter what you got though. What you think?
Well, I guess it's easier now to say no, because maybe it's just where the different interpretations of like the top wrestlers collide. Because I think that I feel like the booking hurt his sort of star power. If we're talking about 2000s, absolutely is there. But yeah, obviously match quality is there. But I'm not just measuring that. So you know, I don't mind he's on the list, but he is not on my list personally. But I don't hate that he's on the list.
Alrighty, so that goes with that. Jim Cameron, who do you got? We only got 2 spots left.
So I was teasing possibly doing another Japanese wrestler, but there was another one that came to my head, specifically around the time when DDP came into the conversation. I want to throw the Macho Man Randy Savage into the conversation. We talked about him in the 80s, and that was a great run too. I think his run in the 90s was, at certain points, just as good. We're talking about the matches with DDP. Even like in the early 90s, he got the best match out of the Ultimate Warrior that we're ever going to get. He had a great match with Ric Flair at WrestleMania 8. In WCW, he had another series of great matches with Ric Flair at Great American Bash 95. I even have a soft spot for the Lifeguard match at Bash at the Beach 95. So he was relegated to the commentary desk because he was too old, apparently. And like the 90s showed that he had more gas in the tank. So I'm going to throw Randy Savage's name out there.
Yeah, not a bad one here. Definitely one, again, kind of maybe on the mind for me as well. But it's another kind of like slight note for me as well on my short list. Not on my 12. I do think there's some gaps, you know, at the beginning of the year, you know what I mean? He's kind of done for a couple of years there doing commentary. And he switched over to WCW, kind of does whatever. Some good stuff with DDP, some good stuff kind of here and there. And then again, it's kind of gone kind of towards the end as well. So I think the people, there's some people on here that I think kind of had a better decade overall. You know, he's an 80s guy. I think it was his kind of prime. Barber.
Yeah, I think I'm going to side with JPO on this one. It's not a bad shout. Like, I think if anyone were to cross over from, you know, the 80s to this as far as our list, I think Macho Man's a good shout. but slow down. Anyway, so happens when you live right off Main Street. You hear everything. Where were we? Macho Man. Yeah, no, I think he had a decent decade, but yeah, I don't. Just for me personally, there's not a lot of memorable matches and moments as far as some of these other guys are concerned. So yeah, it's a slight no.
Max Moon, what you thinking?
Yeah, look, I like the shout out, but I don't really remember his WCW run in the 90s all that fondly necessarily. I know he won the title a couple of times, but it was never like long runs, and he was always because of partly because of their real life feud at the time, and because of he was in charge of booking. That he always played second fiddle to Hogan, and that kind of kind of sad to see. And yeah, I probably the most memorable thing I remember him doing was being in that program with Dennis Rodman. But yeah, I don't know. It's a good shout, but I think he's better suited in the 80s. So yeah, I would have said no.
Steve, would you have had Cameron's back?
Oh yeah, I would have Cameron's back, top, front, side to side, going all around the world for the Macho Man Randy Savage. Yeah. But yeah, I would have said yes for sure. I mean, with what he said, he even had a great match with Flair at WrestleMania 9. WrestleMania 9 had some bangers, you know?
Eight.
Eight. Excuse me. Pardon my French. WrestleMania 9 was when he came out like Caesar Palace. My bad. And yeah, I definitely would have said yes, because I think he wasn't as iconic in the 90s as he was in the 80s, but I still think he found a way to be to make an evolution of himself and not just keep being the same person over and over again. I mean, he basically turned into basically a pimp by the end of the century. By the end of the 90s, even before that, he was Black Macho Man. He styled with the NWO black and white colors like nobody else styled with the NWO black and white colors. But I would have said yes.
All right, we are on to me. I'm gonna shoot my shot for her Big Daddy Cool Diesel, a.k.a. Kevin Nash. Let me set the tone here for you. First, you got Benny Vegas. No, never mind. First, you got Oz. Let's not talk about him. Blastmaster Seal. No, let's not talk about it. Okay, let's talk about Diesel. So he comes in as the bodyguard. He's got a cool-ass look. He has that weird-ass, but iconic, crazy 8-second squash where he wins the title. Unheard of. Kind of, I guess Brock kind of did it to Kofi, sadly. But this was a good one. Unlike the Brock one that angered everyone, rightfully. This was fun. He kills Backlund. He's kind of what keeps WWE chugging for those few months here while they are kind of struggling, because he's still having some really good shit with Bret Hart. Diesel is a really fun character here. Good stuff. Rapport between him and Shawn, really fun when they were able to do a tag team here. I wish they had held the tag titles longer. And I also kind of want to give some love to NWO here. I don't want to give it to Hogan. Maybe you could argue for Razor, but again, I think the voice of the NWO really was Kevin Nash. Doing the big turn, making people like me legitimately turn the channel here. We were a WWF household, and we turned the channel to see what was up with the NWO because Diesel was on the screen, and we had to see what was going on. Great fun stuff with him and the Outsiders here. And then even when he held the title for the first time, it was still a really kind of major moment here that he was kind of one of those crossover stars who was able to do both. I've always had a love for Diesel and Kevin Nash. Let's see if I'm alone. Barbara, what you thinking?
No, you're not alone. But I don't know who's with you because it's not me. I think he's fine. Yeah, I think he's good. Obviously, he's got his championship runs. Yeah, the NWO stuff was good. I might argue Razor and Scott Hall over Kevin Nash personally.
I said.
But yeah, no, I mean, there's no doubt there's no lack of memorable moments and whatnot. But yeah, I think for me, the in-ring work is just it's fine. I'm trying to think of that one Kevin Nash or Diesel match where I'm like, oh my gosh, that was so good.
Bret
And I
Hart?
just can't do it. Bret Hart was good. It was good. But the fact that I needed you to remind me of it.
Shut up.
It was from
but yeah, I mean,
'95. It was a bad year.
it's good. And that was you're not helping.
I'm not helping my case. Ignore everything that's been said in the last 2 minutes.
No, yeah, I mean, look, I'm just gonna, I'm gonna bury you more because you shot yourself in the foot by basically saying you could have voted Razor Ramon, which would have been a better nomination, because
The world title.
yeah,
Should have.
cool. Yeah, he was. Diesel was world champion, and he was also regarded as the worst rated. it was a bomb.
That wasn't his fault.
But they constantly give him shit over. They constantly talk about how it was a mistake to put the title.
What titles did you win exactly? That's what I thought.
So, and look, yeah, the NWO thing was good. So that gives me a little forward. But not enough. It's not enough to get him over the line. So
You got my back.
Sad to say no. And I stress that I've actually met Kevin Nash on several occasions. He lives about 20 minutes away from where I am. He's a great guy. He told me his Punisher story about how he was stabbed accidentally. I'm like, I heard a rumor about the Punisher. I'm like, yeah, I was stabbed. And he told me the story. So Kevin Nash is a wonderful human being. But in the context of this, I'm going to have to say no.
Steve, you just lie to me. No. Stop. Hold, you didn't go yet. You're my friend. Just lie to me. It doesn't matter. Just say yes so I can feel a little bit better.
Well, you want me to lie to you? Well, what kind of friend would I do if I just lied to you?
Good one.
Be a trusting friend. I wouldn't be a very trusting friend when you ask for criticism. But you know what? I'm not gonna make it a clean sweep. I'm gonna use the friend card, and I'm gonna say yes, even though everybody said no. I'm gonna say yes, but secretly, I didn't really care for
usually yes, but when it doesn't mean shit.
I just wanted to make sure you guys all had another chance. Jacob, take that chance now.
Well, I have that chance now, and I'm going to take it. Here's the other Japanese wrestler. Oh,
we just had you.
Sorry.
We'll see if we get to you. There's a possibility.
Oh,
it depends
that's what happens when I'm in something with multiple Jacobs. I always hold that.
Welcome to my new podcast called Too Many Jacobs. Papa will be on that too.
Story of my life.
Yeah, I'll see your Kevin Nash / Diesel, and I'll raise you a Razor Ramon / Scott Hall. I think he's just a really cool guy too. Like he just oozed charisma on the screen. In ring work, yeah, like I thought he was a decent promo. The body match with Sean, the NWO stuff. He was just a really cool guy and somebody that I think, just had that it factor, but unfortunately it didn't lead to a world title reign like it should have. But yeah, no, I think Scott Hall, Razor Ramon was just an incredible in-ring worker. And yeah, if we ever do a top 12 wrestlers who should have been a world champion, he's also at the top of that list for me. I think he should have had at least one run, maybe two, maybe three, maybe 4 or 5. Razor Ramon, Scott Hall is my next choice.
Richard.
Yeah, Razor Ramon, Scott Hall was a huge star of the 90s. He just oozed charisma. And yeah, you can tell he inspired a lot of people. Obviously, Kalida's gimmicks are heavily inspired by Razor Ramon in a way. And yeah, I think he was one of their big stars. Like I think he should have been world champion, but I think unfortunately some of that could be his own doing, given he was dealing with some demons and stuff. But yeah, he had the skill and charisma to make it far. And I think he with all those negatives, I still think he's a huge like a huge star. I think he. He was really over. Really good worker. Probably, easily. I mean, it's not saying much, but easily the best worker out of the original NWO. But yeah, and I don't know. I think that dude has like loads of potential. So loads of potential, and yeah. So I'm gonna say yes.
Steve Mesa.
While, listen, not to disrespect the dead, but I didn't care for the outsiders, dead or alive.
Yeah, no for saying that. Jesus Christ.
Well, hey, man. If I was gonna say it, I was gonna say it.
Put out them dirt sheets.
I respect the work that was put out by both Nash and Hall. I respect his work as a diamond stud. But what I will not tolerate is being brown skinned and pretending to be Hispanic. As a Hispanic, I feel like it's my obligation that I should say no to Razor Ramon or Scott.
All right, well,
or
are you throw a toothpick at him, Jacob Cameron, or what you thinking?
He had moments of brilliance, especially like the Michaels match at WrestleMania 10. I think it's too inconsistent. I'm going to say no.
It is all up to JPO. And JPO says, no Diesel, no Razor. No, just kidding. But for real, because no. Yeah, I mean, you start off in the 90s. You got kind of okay WWE run that kind of led nowhere. The Razor Ramon stuff's a lot of fun. Ladder match, great stuff. Ladder match, rematch, underrated as well, where they kind of flip roles a little bit. Or just Sean flips roles, really. But then, he never, unfortunately, was a main eventer. Whether that's partly his fault, partly booking's fault. I think in WCW that was just his fault to a large degree. And then kind of trails off, unfortunately, by the 90s. You know what I mean? And not to knock anyone's demons. I got my own demons. But, yeah, I think it's just again, worthy of discussing here in the 90s for sure. Legend for sure. Not in my personal 12 here, especially with what's kind of made it. So would we just?
That felt spiteful.
No, we're on Richie. 64.
All right, I'll see if this is spiteful. I'm going to go for a guy who kind of started off in early mid '90s. Not great because I think he was a scapegoat, like Jack Perry. Jack Perry for the '90s. But yeah, for the curtain call thing, I think you know where I'm going. I'm going to go Triple H. Yeah, a guy who, he was blamed for the curtain call thing because he was the only one available to be punished, basically. They didn't want to punish Shawn Michaels because he made him money, and they couldn't afford to, they were in a position where they couldn't afford to punish their top guy, and the other two were leaving. So, there you go. Triple H's target. But yeah, he manages to crawl back, winning the King of the Ring in the next, he was get back in the good graces. Win the King of the Ring next year, and then just runs with it, and he becomes top guy, and you believe him as a top guy. Like his ladder match with I was going to mention when we talked about The Rock before, but his ladder match at SummerSlam '98 with The Rock is great. Still holds up. That match rules. And yeah, yes, his ascent to the main event picture, obviously with a big body transformation there, but but you believe him as this sort of top guy that's top heel, and I just think he was just I think there's an argument to make he has he'd be higher in the 2000s, but I don't think we should dismiss his contributions in the 90s. I think he was still very much a factor. And you mentioned he's still one of the most popular factions of all time. So yeah, Triple H.
Jacob, are you gonna give a point to Triple H?
If this were the 2000s, I'd say maybe, but in the 90s, I'll say no, because he didn't hit that stride until 98, 99. And even then, he was terrorizing, he was Hunter Hearst Helmsley, and it was just, he was fighting a hog pen match against Henry O. Godwin. It was just
awesome.
Too little.
A bad thing yet.
Too little, too late in the decade for me.
Fair enough. On both ends of Mesa, we're split. Where do you land?
No.
Yeah, no, good.
Fair enough. It's getting late. So it's getting quieter. Well, I'm gonna leave it up to Barber. I'm gonna give this a yes. He has fallen off my list, but I'm putting him back on my list because I think he gets enough here. I think I like Hunter. Sounds like it's a great heel gimmick if you want us to get his ass kicked here. I am such a DX fan as well. Those two are tremendously fun. That origin of Triple H and Shawn just being wacky, messing with Sergeant Slaughter. I love their Christmas main event for the European title, where it's all just ruse. Triple H going, other than the day of my kid being born, I don't have one that I know of. This is the greatest day of my life. Like, he's tremendously talented. The matches also, too, again, we mentioned The Rock having a great ladder match. That's also partly due to Triple H. And he is champed by, you know what I mean, those last couple of years, kind of like The Rock. He's starting to become the game. He's starting to become that number one guy. So I do think it's enough to get him here. Barber, it is, again, truly to you.
Oh, man. Do I agree with the top row or the bottom row?
I feel like that's been like the
You
case.
have to deal with every week, or the guest you'll never see again.
You'll see again in other streams.
No, again, I haven't made a list. I'm just going off. I'm just going off feeling and how I feel at the time. And that was like, it seems like a long shot, but if it gets back to me, Triple H will probably be the next guy that I bring up. I think Richie and JP. I think you made some great points. I understand why, you know, there were a couple no's. I understand it, but yeah, I think for me, like, yeah, I think he really comes into his own. Yeah, and I'm gonna give him a yes. So we're down to that final spot.
All right, one spot left. So Steve, you shoot your shot.
Well, you know, a man once said, enough is enough. It's time for a change. I think it's time that we included the other Hart brother, Mr. Owen Hart, who, while, you know, the work rate in WWF wasn't as great as compared to his brother Bret, he had made other great matches outside of the States, whether it was in Stampede Wrestling or in New Japan Wrestling. Hell, his legacy is still talked about today, even to the point where AEW is celebrating him yearly with an Owen Hart tournament, both for the women's and the men's tournament. His talent. I mean, he's just as good as his brother, and he had great matches with him, including my favorite. While it's WrestleMania 10, I also really enjoyed a little bit more the SummerSlam '94 cage match, and he had also had a couple of TV matches on Raw with him that were pretty good. I mean, he had matches with Liger, Shoichiro Antaro, I believe, and he was an IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion. And Grammy, he is also a Slammy Award winner. You can never forget the time that he actually took Vader's Slammy, I believe. He might have taken Vader's Slammy after Vader. There were some shenanigans. He's like, "Ma, I did it! I won again!" So, you know, officially a 2-time Slammy Award winner. So yeah, man, I gotta definitely go with Owen Hart, especially since it's gonna be the last spot. I'm hoping.
We'll find out momentarily. Jim Cameron, Owen Hart.
Yes, that is a yes from me. I love the match that he had with Ken Shamrock in the dungeon at Over the Edge '98. I thought that was a lot of fun. I love the Lions Den match they had at SummerSlam '98. Owen cut a great promo like on one of the last Raws of '97 where he had just jumped Shawn Michaels at the end of DX in Your House. And he is like, my reputation, my life is on the line, and I'm going to make Shawn Michaels' life a living hell. Like, Blackheart Owen Hart could have been so much. Unfortunately, it wasn't for a lot of reasons. But long story short, Owen Hart, yes. Yes from me.
You know, I've gone back and forth with my head here. I think because we're not going to, unfortunately, get another chance to sing this man's praises. I've had him on my list, kind of took him off my list because of some of the other people that have made it. I'm putting him back on my list. I'm going to say yes. I think this guy is just supremely talented. From its splashes in New Japan with the Liger matches to obviously the WWF, the King of the Ring win, fantastic stuff here. He's another one that I think you could have put the title on at some point. I would have loved to have seen him, take it off Brett. I think that was a potentially missed opportunity here. And again, the greedy wrestler part of me, as well as just wanting to see the man with his family. Damn, what we could have had if he had gone another 5, 10, 15 years, whatever it was going to end up being. Sucks that we never got that, because this man was so talented and also better character and promo than Brett, hands down. Doesn't matter. Jacob, what you thinking?
I changed my mind. If it got back to me, Owen would have been the next guy that I brought up. Because I prefer him over Brett. I think he's a tremendous in-ring worker. I think he can cut a good promo, a better promo than Brett. Not that I'm just comparing the two, but I am. But I think Owen is tremendous. It's I think one of the biggest what ifs in wrestling. Like, what if we got 10 to 15 more years of Owen? Would we have gotten that world title reign? Would he have jumped ship to WCW at some point with his brother? Who knows? But I think he's a tremendous athlete, a tremendous worker. So he makes the list. Not that my vote mattered.
Richie.
You're probably glad my vote didn't matter. I would have been the curmudgeon of this group, and I would have given a slight no.
Oh, you suck.
I know. But no, look, not that I don't agree with everything you said. I also think he's a little bit better than Brett. I per my criteria how I'm been rating these. He never, got to that sort of level, like as far as like star power going. And a lot of it has nothing to do with him necessarily. It's just the way he was used more so. I think they're just hot and cold with him and didn't really capitalize on the Brett feud the way they should. I would have said no, but I don't mind his own list.
Absolutely. Here, before we get to our voting here, any honorable mentions? The only things that kind of were on my mind personally, I would have liked to have maybe shown some love to ECW. I was going to throw out Rob Van Dam at some point, never got that far, because I think his TV title run was pretty damn sweet, and he was a go-to match of the night. Then also Shane Douglas, maybe Raven as well. Again, if you want to show ECW some love from that year, because again, we're not really going to get a chance to in the next decade. And then besides that, I don't know, Fantasio, Tano Team 2000, and TL Hopper. But TL Hopper was discussed. So, Barbara, what were you thinking? Any honorable mentions we didn't quite get to?
Yeah, I mean, if we go ECW, the biggest guy I'm familiar with is Taz. I think Taz is fantastic and a really good worker. Rob Van Dam, look at the guys you mentioned. And then probably would have been an outside chance, but I thought the Giant was quite good in the '90s, so I would probably would have shouted him out as well. So those are probably the guys I'm thinking.
Big iconic run, no pun intended, Richie.
Yeah, nothing that that's you haven't already mentioned. Yeah, like Taz, Tommy Dreamer, maybe. Raven, Booker T. Maybe, but he's more capable. Yeah. And yeah, people like that. People like X-Pac. It's something that, I feel like I don't think he reached that sort of
any version of the Kid.
Yeah, I will. People like that. Ultimo Dragon. A good '90s. Vader. Unfortunately, we have to. If he didn't go to be, it'll be a different story. But Vader's great. But there's Goldust as well. I just like the gimmick, but yeah. Those ones I can think of. Ken Shamrock too.
You mentioned him too. I also definitely had Vader on the mind as well. Great tips of New Japan stuff. Steve, remind us how we forgot about Jun Akiyama.
Minus Jun Akiyama, you have also the other four pillars, Kobashi and Kawada. And you can also get Akira Treyu. He's also was great too. I also would have nominated Stan Hansen. His work in the '90s were tremendous. And I also would have gotten a chance with Eddie Guerrero. His work in AAA, and along with his solidifying the cruiserweights in the WCW, being in the finals of the the final. I believe he was in the finals to crown the WCW Cruiserweight Champion, which ended up going to Otani.
Yep. No, that was Malenko.
Oh, wrong Cruiserweight.
And Jacob Cameron, talk to us about Skull and Ink Bowl.
Jeez. Honestly, you guys covered a lot of the ones I was going to cover. I was going to take a long shot on Booker T, but then the more I thought about it, I'm like, his 2000s was probably better. That was King Booker. That was that whole thing. Yeah, like Eddie was going to be one. Kenta Kobashi specifically, I was going to try and get out there. So, yeah, I was beaten to him.
All right, this comes to the point where we're going to vote in the 12 order. So again, now basically let me know who is the least person on your list. Let me know basically your opinion on who number 12 should be. You can put it on a whiteboard. You can say it out loud. That's your call. I'm cool either way. I'm going just based on lesser known Mitsuharu Misawa. Jacob.
Yeah.
He said Triple H. Other Jacob. You're good. It's going to happen.
I was going to go with Misawa as well.
Richie.
Yeah, just because I haven't seen as much, I'll say Misawa.
Damn.
And Steve, doesn't matter. All right. So Steve's mad at his number one vote. Mitsuharu Misawa is number 12. I saw Triple H for you. Number 11, Barber.
I'll go Goldberg here, number 11.
Richie.
I'd actually go Triple H here.
Steve.
Goldberg.
And Cameron.
William.
Oh, a little swerve there because you did change up. So, yeah, we will go Bill Goldberg for number 11. Richie, number 10.
10. I'll stick with Triple H.
Oh, I would have said Liger, by the way. I skipped myself, but I would have said Liger last round. Steve.
Triple H.
Jacob Cameron.
This will be ha.
All right, and for Liger, but for fun, Barber.
Terror Rising.
Hey, he's on the list. What you got, Jacob Cameron, for number 9? Or Steve, number 9? I skip people.
I got Sting.
It's got to be, what do you think, Jacob Cameron?
Let's go. I'm sorry, I'm looking at
Yeah. Stone Cold, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, Sting, The Rock, Mankind, Owen Hart, Rey Mysterio, Jushin Liger.
I'm sorry, Steve. What did you go with?
Sting.
Sting is your first potential nomination.
You know what? I'll second you on that. Let's go Sting there.
You've been a static.
Barber.
I'll go Liger.
And Richie.
Liger.
I was going to say, what do you say, Richie? Choose. So Liger comes in at number 9. Jacob Cameron, number 8.
Number 8. Number 8, let's go Sting.
Alrighty, and I'm going to say Rey Mysterio. Barber.
I was going to say Rey Mysterio.
Richie.
I thought there was a civil war going on between the top row and the second row. That whole episode. Because Rey Mysterio.
Alrighty, makes it for fun. Just Sting still?
Yes.
He did.
Alrighty, let's see. Who's next? I don't remember. Am I voting now for once? No.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Hold on, let me take him off. I'll go Owen Hart. Barber.
This looks bad because I don't have a whiteboard and it thinks I'm just copying you. But I was going to go with Owen.
Simpatico. Love him, but he's not in the main event. Richie.
We are the 3 landing marks may have good chemistry for a reason. Oh, no. I'm not copying.
For fun, Mason. It's still Sting, probably, and Cameron.
I was going to go Sting, too.
Alright, so Owen's off the board. Alrighty, so now to Barber. What you thinking?
Yeah, he was my favorite as a child, but adult me, I think I can appreciate the other the other 5 more. So I'll go Sting for number 6.
Sting. And Richard?
Yeah, I'll go Sting here.
Alrighty, Steve?
Watch him change your answer.
Cameron, do you agree or not?
Yeah, I agree.
Don't tell Mick. I might have got Mick. What you thinking, Richie?
Don't tell Mick, 'cause I'm going him next.
Steve.
The Rock.
Alrighty. What are you smelling, Jacob Cameron?
Let's go Liger.
He's
You
already.
can't do that.
Oh, he's been chosen already. Oh shit.
Liger was number 9.
Oh shit. It's midnight. where
Your
I am,
options
so-
are Stone Cold, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, The Rock, Mankind.
Mick Foley.
I'll side with Mesa. Let's go The Rock.
Alright, and Mick Foley, and what you got, Jacob Barber?
He's in the decade a little bit less, so I'll go The Rock.
That's a The Rock. At number 5, Dwayne the Tub, he's drowning. Where were we at, Steve? I don't remember.
Yeah, why not?
I am
Jacob.
gonna go with Bret Hart.
What you got, Jacob Cameron?
Yeah, let's go Brett here.
All right, 2 for Brett. I'm going with Mick Foley and Barber.
I think you need to somehow figure out how to put me in the bottom row. That's where I seem to be siding with now, because I'm gonna go with Brett.
Fine enough. Well, I guess Brett gets, but Richie.
The People versus JPO, Brett.
Hey, that's fine by me. Weirdly enough, I was defending Brett. The young me is mad at me. All right, what you got, Jacob Cameron?
Let's go Sean here.
Oh, fuck you. I'm gonna go. Sorry. I'm gonna go Mick Foley. Barber.
It's actually tough. I'm gonna go Mick Foley.
All righty, Richie.
Nichols.
Mick Foley and Steve.
HBK.
Oh, it's close.
All right, Mick Foley will get the window here. I have a feeling I know what's going to happen here. Now it is the opposite of what we just did. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to know who you think should be number 1 tonight. Well, let's start at the top. Barber, who's number 1?
Austin.
And
Austin.
Richie?
Yeah, I said Austin.
I didn't hear it. My bad. Steve?
I don't have a frame Schamberger for nothing. Stone Cold Steve Austin.
And what you got, Jacob Cameron?
We are simpatico Stone Cold.
There is no argument here. He is the 90s. He is the second big boom, as I said when I nominated him. And that is coming from a number 1 Shawn Michaels guy here, but I think Austin just kind of has to be it. So number 2, I wrote this even before we finished voting because I figured it would go. Number 2, Shawn. Number 1, Stone Cold Steve Austin. Once again, our top 12 here tonight. Number 12, Jahara Masawa. Number 11, Bill Goldberg. Number 10, Hunter Hearst Triple H. Number 9, Jushin Thunder Liger. Number 8, Rey Mysterio Jr. Number 7, Owen Hart. Number 6, Sting. Number 5, The Rock. Number 4, Bret Hart. Number 3, Mick Foley. Number 2, Shawn Michaels. And number 1, Stone Cold Steve Austin. I think that's a damn good list. I like what we came up here. Jacob Barber, plug the parting words.
Look out for a podcast about movies at some point this weekend, somewhere. Just if you follow me on social media at all, just watch out for the link to drop. We'll be live talking some 1984 movies as we continue our anniversary series. That's me and Pez, so it should be a lot of fun. And then I will also be on Rankum, the real Rankum, not this ripoff. Talking.
He allowed it.
He allowed it. Talking. Let's make sure I get this right. The top 12 WWE gimmicks that deserve a biopic. Should be a fun one.
Oh yes, I would be on that as well. I'm very looking forward to seeing what people come up with. I've got some interesting pitches, I believe, that you won't necessarily see coming. I'm writing on the list again. I almost put number 3 is Richie because he's next in line to talk. Richie, you're not number 3 on the 90s, but you're in my heart. So plug is the parting words.
Yeah, you can also catch me on that Rankin episode. Catch my pitch for the Gobbledygooker movie.
You know what?
I would see it. I watch anything though. I'm on a horror free for all, which I almost gave JPO a heart attack by thinking it was today. But it's next. It's on Sunday.
I'll see you in that.
So yeah, and then T-Rack is 105, all that deal, and yeah.
Steve Mesa, happy to have you here. Like I said, I know you want to jockey for women when we get to it, so we'll see if we can make that work with plugs, parting words.
It has been a lot of fun. Also, if you ever do 2000s, 10s, 20s, whatever, like I always love doing rankums, especially when it comes to wrestling. It just, there's a lot of stuff that pops up and like in terms of, I didn't think about that wrestler or whatever, and so on and so forth. So I was glad I would be able to be on here. But plugs, Mesa Media, one on X, on Twitter, on YouTube. There's going to be a Matt Cardona music video premiering tomorrow at 12 p.m. high noon. Check it out. As far as any other trivia that you'll find me, I'm sure there's going to be an ASAT show that I'll be on, defending my title. Woo woo woo, you know it. That's all I got to say about that.
And I also have a photo of the LI too. Jacob Cameron, last but certainly not least, thanks for being here. You've been a good pull in the past, so we'll definitely have you back at some point. Plugs, parting words, and when you go to Long Island, what is your favorite place to visit?
Well, I've only been there once, so
I did it backwards. I'm IL.
You aged backwards.
I like to go to the beach, but you can find me on YouTube at RyanCam20. I've got 1999 project going on where I'm trying to review all of the movies from 1999. JPO is going to be joining me in the near future to talk about Big Daddy, so that's going to be coming down the road in a few weeks. I'm going to be in the horror free for all for a while.
Not Big Daddy.
It's Big Daddy.
Why did
Shut
I
up.
know that was
That movie.
But I'll be in the horror free for all for Why We Love Horror. I've got an ASAT Teams match coming down the road. I've got a lot of stuff going on. I'll be on the Rankum for the WWE gimmicks that need a movie or TV show. I'm very much looking forward to that. So I'm
Jake,
like Johnny Cash. I'm
who are
everywhere.
you fighting in the Teams match again?
It's shampoo is better.
Oh yeah, you're going down. For Jacob, for Steve, for Richie, for Jacob. This has been Lonely Marks. Again, follow me, Richie, and especially Jacob on social media to see where you can find the show next week, because we're gonna have a whole new channel, I believe, and we love you more than you'll ever know. MJF needs oxygen on his nose. Is that how we end?
I gotta send you the picture.
Damn it.
Thank you, fuck you, bye, boom.